problem.
I just wanted to make sure that your intro got on here.
Oh, you're sweet. We should have had Lynn's that.
That's
last
okay.
thing.
That's okay.
I think we got her
So-
on previous recordings, I think.
So I learned the three principles. I was, well, the first thing, it was sort of quasi introduced to me by my next door neighbor, who I was living in a condo downtown, and Mary, I can't even, I'm blanking on my neighbor's last name right now, but I'm sure that Lori's met her. She lives in Denver.
Mary White?
Pardon?
Not Mary White. No.
Not Mary White, but you're getting close. It'll come to me maybe before the end. She had been in Denver and she'd moved to Des Moines, and she had invited the Three Principles people when she was in Denver to help with her outreach, individuals who were working with young moms. And she said it was just wonderful and was such a big help. And they just had one video that she could show me. And I thought, well, that sounds like some of the other things that I've heard. And she said, well, I'm going to work to try to bring them to Des Moines. And so she did. She was with Iowa Health Systems, which was a large hospital system in Des Moines that's now Unity Point and United Way. And they brought them in, trained lots of people. So I was with this program in West Des Moines where we were getting frustrated that we were seeing families too screwed up to fix. And so when we went to this, we learned that everybody has innate mental health. And that was like, whoa, you mean I've been making up all these thoughts all these years? So that was my first recognition is, wow, if everybody has innate mental health and we look to that, what a difference that will make. And that, have I been making up all these thoughts? And so I was running around my house saying, it's only a thought. It's only a thought. You know, when I would have bad feelings. And then I realized, well, maybe it's different from this. So I had the opportunity to go through a 2-year program of intensive work where we got the opportunity to listen to, well, Roger Mills came and Amy came and Mark Howard came. And so we just had so many. Well, and Christine Heath was one of the main people, and she was there she was there every month. So it was just a huge gift. So we started teaching that to the case managers in this program. We started teaching it to the families, to the kids, and we saw a big turnaround. We saw kids who had been, you know, like wearing all black and not going to classes, who all of a sudden started wearing color and just letting go of their past thinking and recognizing that we could feel differently, that we're always feeling our thinking. And so it's been a huge gift to me personally. At that point in time, I was living with, my husband was addicted to alcohol and wasn't able to see how much his thinking was involved in that. So it just kept going on. So I was able to realize that when I came home and he was he was passed out or something, that I didn't need to buy into where he was, and I could still create a lovely evening for myself. So it's been a huge gift in seeing that. I guess one of the most recent insights has been that people's wisdom is not their own individual wisdom that they're seeing, that it's connected to the universal wisdom, and that when we are calm and, you know, just sort of recognize that we can go to a different place, and that we almost feel our feelings more intensely and recognize that, yeah, that's my feeling in the moment. I can just sort of sink into it and know that it's going to shift, it's going to change. So it's been a real gift.
Beautiful.
Well, yeah, that's great. Scroll it. I never heard all of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Karen has a great share.
Yeah.
COVID is kind of what drove my anxiety and my mental health in a wrong direction. And thankfully I met Lori and she introduced me to the principles, and I'm in a much better place and actually connecting. I think, Laura, are you going to join Krista and I on Wednesday? I'm meeting with Krista online on a Zoom on Wednesday, and we're going to talk more about how bringing My Guidance side into the school, because I've worked with, because I've had to share my personal learning goal with some teachers and classes. And so Lori connected me with
Wonderful.
Krista. And so we're on a Zoom on Wednesday. If you haven't gotten the link, I'll share it with you, because you're welcome to be there if you want.
I may have, depends on when it was sent.
Yeah, I
haven't
can't
been on.
remember. So yeah, I was
What
from
time are
like,
you meeting?
I was on
Krista
spring break
canceled.
last week. I was on spring break last week. So it's like everything's a poof.
Karen's talking about Krista canceled because she wrote My Guide Inside, and Karen is introducing My Guide Inside to different classrooms in her
Elementary.
district.
Isn't that wonderful?
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was just sharing with Lynn before you all got on that I listened to Separate Realities again, because that's the theme for this week. Sid speaking about it at the Washington lectures at the very end. And honestly, Karen, I don't remember hearing this. I mean, I know I've heard Sid talk, we have to share this with the youth. But at the end of Separate Realities, he makes a big deal about sharing this with the youth, because, well, for obvious reasons, we'll be gone at some point, and they're going to carry forward. They're the ones who will really be changing the field of psychology. That's at the very end of the which lecture is that? Washington, I think.
Washington lecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm meeting with her on Wednesday at noon on Zoom. So
Oh, I bet I'm free. Yeah. I'd
That'd be
love to be
awesome.
on.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm doing it at work because it's work related now, because I've been pretty much given the green light to keep going with other classes who want to join in. And
Nice, Karen. Good for you.
I cringe because that Friday before break, she's like, well, have you thought about bringing an anchor chart? So I'm thinking, no. But if I can post something in the room, that's kind of what I want to talk to. Part of what I want to ask Krista about is like all that stuff is copyrighted to her,
Right.
so I don't know.
Well, and
But it's
Lori
like-
and Jack's book is really cool too, Karen.
But the thing is, it's like they've adopted the Castle framework here for SEL in Connecticut. So that's what they're teaching, which is all outside in, and this is inside out. But Krista's on her website has the links to some of how it dovetails and supports it. And thankfully, one of my supervisors sees that it is complementary to what we're adopting. So they're okay with me sharing.
Nice.
So I've got a few more classes that I've been sharing it with, and I was in 2 rooms today, and they're like, when are you coming back to talk some more stuff to us?
Mhm.
Wow, that's
cool.
awesome.
Oh, see, what's so wonderful is that Scarlett had a taste of this, which was like, not citywide, but it was wide,
Mhm.
something wide, community
Right.
wide. I don't know what you might
Right.
call it. So it's really beautiful that we've got Karen starting a program in
Mhm.
Connecticut.
We bits at my
Yeah,
school.
but you know what? Baby steps.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
How
right.
did Scarlett's program in Des Moines, Iowa begin?
Scarlett, who are you? What book are you talking about?
The book that Jack and Lori, I just ordered another one and it came, but where I've piled it when I was getting ready for company yesterday, I'm not sure. But
What's-
you tell her
Oh, you
about
mean
it.
healthy
Lori.
thinking, feeling, doing?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Wow.
yes.
What's it again?
Healthy thinking, feeling, doing from the inside out
Right.
by Lori Carpenos and Jack Pransky.
Oh, you wrote it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did I
yeah,
send
she
you?
wrote
I
it.
didn't send you a copy of it. No?
And then she also wrote one about girls. What's that one? I'm not sure where I filed that one either. About the 2 girls that were talking.
I remember that. That was a picture book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe I may
Yeah.
have the other one. It was just not cluing in with me at the moment.
But
So
the
okay.
other one is like a curriculum, so it's really cool.
That's the thicker book. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the healthy thinking one is the one with the yellow flower on the front. I remember now, I sent it with you in a package of all
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
for the
Nice.
heart of service. Yeah,
Okay.
so you got
I
it.
was like, I'm like, I'm thinking, there's another book I need to like, okay.
Oh, we had a drama teacher who taught it in a middle school too, and all of the kids in the school had it. And then some three principals, volunteers worked with those kids and they developed a play, which was just a wonderful
Wow.
play about the three principals.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow, did anybody record that?
they did. I ordered the DVD and I think I've lost it, but I could check with the school district and see if I could find it again.
Oh, how cool
Wow.
would that be?
Amazing.
It's not as cool as I mean, the DVD, you know, the things, productions in those days were not as smooth as they are now,
Mm.
but we'll see what I can find.
Wow. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Wow. Wow. Okay. So
Well, it's
Let's see.
interesting that we're themed this week is about separate realities.
realities.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you can see within separate realities how we're all meshed together, right? We have commonality, but within that, the commonality being the three principles.
Yes.
I'm not
Even
going anywhere.
though-
I'm just gonna turn my screen off, but I'm not
Yep,
going
no
anywhere.
problem. No problem.
Yeah, we actually pinned, I pinned Lynn and I, so if it works, and nobody else is seen except the two of us.
Awesome.
So, so usually we start out, with insights, any insights that everybody's had about the theme for the week being separate realities.
Well, maybe we'll do our little chat first and then we can always go back. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's ready with their cameras off. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Started off, Lynn.
yeah. So I even see this deeper, separate realities. Honestly, before my understanding of the principles, I never heard of separate realities at all. But it explained so much to me once I began to see what it really was, to gain insights around it. I always was curious. People growing up in the same families,
Mhm.
one sibling had a different experience than the other when they grew up in the exact same household with the exact same parents or caregivers. It was just fascinating to me. And now I see that, obviously even more that, we all come into this world. I learned this from Mark Howard. Everybody comes into this world with a different level of consciousness. We don't all come in the same levels, which I found that very fascinating because I did not know that. But, if you really think about this, to get a rise in a level of consciousness, we have to see something new through wisdom that we didn't see before, which really changes our perception about something in life, and even in my past, everybody has a past, obviously. Instead of looking for reasons why people feel the way they do and kind of, going over the past in your head and what could I have done different? Why did this happen? I've gotten so many shifts myself just by getting some insights into that wisdom. There you go. So wisdom gives me a rise, like everybody else, in a level of understanding, something new I didn't have before. Even for myself, I think I was mentioning this a while ago. I could have the same thoughts coming through my head I've had all of my life. Sometimes I'm not good enough comes up again, but they don't have the same flavor anymore, the same feel, because I see them for really what they are. I'm seeing them from a different level of where I used to be. And so they're no longer a problem. I just see it for what it is. It's just no big deal. But what we seek, and I know for myself all of my life, who am I? Why am I here? What am I here to do? As your level of consciousness, for mine, I should say, goes upwards, that becomes even more clearer to me than it ever has before. You know, it's just, it's amazing what happens when you get that shift. And we only get that shift through wisdom. Nowhere else, from within, so to speak. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's great, Lynn. Just gonna lift up my chair. I forgot to lift it up. I look like I'm sinking. Sinking slowly here. There we go. Goes a little higher. So, yeah, I love what you said, that, you know, so you could have the same thought. I get this too. You get the same thought. We'll take yours, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the same power
Yes.
with a deep enough understanding about how thought gives us an experience of life.
Yeah.
It takes the power out. It's like, you know, a balloon being full and it just is like sticking a pin in it. It deflates.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me, that you have the same thoughts, but you know, the same thought that I would have cried over before
Yes.
understanding and really cried, like really was in that thought, like it was the only reality that existed, that it was absolute truth.
Yeah.
Now I could have that same thought today. And I've actually said to myself, gosh, this is so interesting. Not only am I not crying about this, but I can't feel bad about it.
Yes.
Right? Like, do you have that? Like, you have this thought, I'm not good enough, but it's like you would have to work at feeling bad about it.
Exactly.
I mean, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like,
It is. It is.
you know, and later, I want to hear from the rest of you if you've had something similar to this, where I'm sure you have. You know, that's huge. That's really huge. To have the same thought, and it doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Exactly. Yes.
It like, well, yeah, maybe I'm not good enough sometimes. I mean, you know, I'm doing the best I can, but yeah, maybe I'm not, you know, depending on who's got the ruler.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. Like, shoot. But boy, it sure mattered before understanding that that's my own thinking.
Yeah.
Like, whoo, you know, two totally different realities. One is, this is who I am, versus, well, that's interesting. This is who I think I am.
Yes.
Who I think I am is not who I am. That's for sure.
Right.
But we're living in a world of separate realities,
Yes.
where people who don't have this understanding, whatever is their thinking, that's looking real to them.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, it's given
Absolutely.
me a lot of compassion that I didn't have before, because I'd either blame them or blame myself. Yeah. Even, you know, being a therapist, for Scarlett and Ksenia, Senia, even, and Judy too, you know, that it's easy to blame yourself for not being a good enough therapist if the client doesn't move, doesn't see something. But it's impossible to blame them or you for not seeing something. it really, I mean, blame for me doesn't exist with this understanding. It just
Right.
doesn't exist. It would make zero sense to blame anything on anybody.
Yeah.
Can I
Absolutely.
say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
So so I'm not a therapist yet. I'm in school. I'll be soon. But one thing is, I mean, I was trying to get the principles and I was struggling a little bit. I mean, it does make sense because I'm thinking, all right, I'm not feeling good right now. And that's a result of my thinking. But it didn't necessarily shift it. Does that make sense? It like stayed stuck. And I'm actually Ukrainian, so everything that's going on in that country is really intense, and that's having also a big effect on me. And it's not necessarily due to thinking, it's also due to reality. And I think I'm just struggling on how to, what to do with that. I mean, it's a natural part of life, right? Grieving, okay? Um, Life is not going to be all happy, happy, happy all the time, right?
Right.
And, there's a time to grieve, there's a time to be happy. I get it. But I notice with me, I'm in my head a lot. And I think that's perhaps why I'm struggling understanding these concepts, because maybe
Yes.
I'm comparing it to other
Yes.
things. I'm like, oh, it's got a little bit of a flavor of mindfulness, a
Oh,
little bit of the
gotcha. Yeah.
CBT, right? I don't know
Yeah.
how else to, you know, I'm not sure. And I know it is more experiential, but
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it
Yeah.
takes time for this to kind of sink in.
Yes. Yes.
Because, for example, another thing is, if there's, let's say, what's going on, I mean, let's say in Ukraine, for example, we can say, well, that's a result of the thinking, but it's still happening.
Mhm. Sure.
What if you're in a relationship that's unhealthy and you can say, oh, that's a result of your thinking, but it's also, if someone's unhealthy, they're unhealthy for you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Sure. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's a great
Yeah.
question.
You,
So
you see a lot, which is great, and Senya, this understanding isn't for the intellect, right? It's beyond the intellect because it's spiritual. So if you try to figure it out, your mind is going to compare it to what you already know: mindfulness, CBT. This isn't like a concept, it's not a methodology, it's not a system, a tool, technique, or strategy. It's how you work. It's the principles explain how the spiritual part of you creates your human experiences, how you think, how you feel, and how you act. So it isn't anything that you can compare it to, which is beautiful. It's just, how you work. And it's very normal. You're not alone. I was the same way, trying to compare it to other things and make heads or tails out of it. When you begin to see the principles on a deeper level, all that will clear up for you, because, there's a knowing, oh, it's my thinking. It's okay to know that, but you know it intellectually. When you gain that deeper understanding is where you'll begin to see it for what it really is. And because, again, what we're talking about, your reality will shift. You're going to get a rise in a level of consciousness from insights which come from wisdom. So, and it doesn't negate at all. A lot of people think, oh, the principles, you guys don't feel, you ignore things. That's not true. And you're right. Somebody could not be good for you. And sure, all behavior comes from your thinking. That doesn't mean you have to stay in a relationship with someone that's unhealthy for you by any means. But you can understand like that they're doing their best based on the level of thinking they're in at any given moment. Because we're always in a relationship with our thinking, though it doesn't look that way. And, even with the separate realities, I see forgiveness for myself easier in a way, because that's what I see: people beyond their conditioned thinking. Because as Lori stated, and Scarlett, we all have innate health. It only erroneously gets covered up in thought. So this understanding helps you understand your partner, your neighbor, your coworker, because we work all the same. We work all the same. And when we're, we have that feedback loop also, feedback system called insecure emotions, fear, anxiety, stress, blame, shame, guilt, all of that. And we're designed perfectly. That just lets us know that we've been a little too creative with our thinking. We've got caught up in some story, and it's time to come back to the present moment. And what's going on in your country there, you're right, it's absolutely reality. But when there's a way to look at it from your head of the insecure thinking, or from that space of looking at it from well-being, you'll see something even different. But it is reality of what's happening, absolutely. But it's always how we're thinking about something that gives us those feelings of whatever you're thinking. We're always living the feeling of our thinking, although it doesn't look that way.
Yeah, beautiful answer to that. And so I'll just reiterate too, that for all of us, that if you find yourself trying to fit this into a concept, something, that's the way the brain works, but you want to hear through your heart, so to speak.
Yeah.
You want to hear through wisdom. You want to hear deeper than your brain, deeper than the physical world. Right. Really, the principles are pointing to what comes before the physical world. Yes. So it's actually the principles that allow people to come up with things like mindfulness, like CBT, like hypnosis, or any kind of strategy, or that's what allows people to come up with theories and constructs, all of that. So we're just talking about what is a gift. It's an incredible gift that allows us to create constructs and books and movies and music and you name it. Yeah. And it points to the fact that people have innate health. They've got a lot of thinking that covers it up. They've got a lot of erroneous, misguided thinking that is what causes people to behave badly. And, Sid said in his Washington lectures on separate realities, I just listened to it again, 10 minutes, right? And I guess it's 20 minutes because it's 2 parts, 10 minutes each part. And I tell you, no matter how many times I've heard that recording, I hear something else, something fresh. And what I heard this time was that, and I just lost it. It'll come
back.
sure.
It'll come back.
But, it's just such a beautiful recording. It was that we can think anything. If we don't act on it, it doesn't harm anybody. Right. People could plan wars, and if they never act on it, it doesn't harm anybody. Sid used the example of a bank robber. You can plan to rob a bank, but if you don't actually do it, there's no harm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the power of thought. We have to put life into it. That's what Sid said. We have to put life into what we think for it to manifest in reality. Yes. We get a lot of crazy thoughts. I mean, at low points in my life, I would cross the street and I think, gee, things are so bad. I wish I had the courage to throw myself down and let somebody run over me. I mean, that thought just seems so absurd, but I know I had it. Yeah. And there are people who throw themselves down. There are people who act on personal thinking. There's a big difference between our personal thinking and wisdom. And that's where the principles point people in the direction of wisdom. When you quiet down your personal thinking, ooh, you're much closer to wisdom.
Absolutely.
So did that clarify things a little bit for you, Senia?
It did. It's still a little fuzzy, just because, you have these thoughts that are not, and you can say, okay, I'm feeling horrible, and it's also due to my thinking. And I was telling myself that, but it didn't really shift.
Right. Right.
It still stayed like that. And for me, I'm the type where I believe the thoughts. I hold on to those thoughts. That's the issue.
Ah,
And it almost means like quiet down. It almost still seems like you are trying to do something,
Yeah.
right?
Very common. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people say that. See, when you see it on a deeper level, that it's your thinking, you never have to remind yourself, oh, it's my thoughts, because you know it on the intellectual level, but don't really know it yet at that insightful level. So it's okay to explore and notice what you notice. Nothing is wrong. There's nothing to do but just play around and notice. That's all. There's nothing really to do. It's really I would say, listen to Sid or listen to Dickin or Lori or myself, all of us here. The more that you listen from a quieter mind, that's where you're going to get the shifts. They'll just come. So it's like it's amazing.
and
Yeah.
it feels like insight, like you'll feel like
Yes.
seeing something inside of yourself fresh and new that you hadn't quite seen before.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is that separate realities doesn't only exist between people, but within each one of us.
Yeah.
Like when you have those bad thoughts, or any of us have those bad thoughts, they don't last forever. And if we know enough not to go chasing them, not to
Yes.
go analyzing them, picking them apart, overthinking them, they tend to depart quicker.
Yes.
The less energy you give them, they don't stick around long.
Yeah. That's
One
right.
of my favorite examples was a couple of years ago. We were in the height of COVID on Thanksgiving, and I live alone, and I wasn't getting together with family. We were all kind of hunkering down, and I took a walk to one of my parks that I love to walk in, pretty much across the street. I could walk there, but so I get to the park. This is on Thanksgiving. I'm already feeling lonely and bummed. It's raining, it's gray, and nobody is there. And this park is usually teeming with activity. There's with kids, lots of kids, adults also, basketball courts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, little league, you name it. Stuff is always happening, and I love seeing all that activity. It was dead. I was the only one there in this drizzling rain. Oh my God. It was like a horrible feeling. All I could think of is, my God, this is what it's like if it's Armageddon and I'm the last person on earth. That's what it felt like. And then I have this thought, oh, wait, you have your camera. You should take a video of this, Lori, because you're never going to see it like this again. And I started videotaping. My mood shifted. It was like doom and gloom to this is so cool. One thought. I didn't make it up. I was open to it, I think is the only way to
Yes.
put it. Like
Yes.
I didn't get so behind the negative thinking about this looking like Armageddon, that I had this one thought, and I realized this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I will never see this park looking like this again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Lori, that's such a great example, because when we dwell in our thinking, we're creating more thinking. A lot of times we look for reasons why we feel the way we do. And that just brings us down poor mental health. You know, we're all sitting on a gold mine of mental health. Most people, and even including myself, I'll be quite honest, because there's so much myths and misunderstandings out in the world of psychology and what's out available, you know, at your fingertips digitally. Insecure emotions tell you nothing. There's no data in those emotions. And I always say, they don't tell you who you are, what you can do, or what you can't do. The only information is it's a lane change. You went out of the lane, out of the line there. Your thinking went south. You're believing something, you know, you're making something up and it's appearing real to you. And you're just caught in thought. You're in a trance, you're in hypnosis, you're in a hypnotic trance, like I always say, until you come out of it. Then you come back to wisdom. But when we don't know that, we're thinkers. We have the power to think. It's not about what we think, it's we have the power to think. When we forget we're thinkers, we have poor mental health, because this country and the misinformation that's out there bases your mental health on the pandemic, on the number on the scale, on the bank account, on your boss, on your job, you know, on that house or on that promotion, whatever it might be. But we have mental health always. That innate health is ours. It can't be taken away, can't be ruined by your past, by a person, by a place, by a thing, nothing. It's unshakable, it's unchangeable. It only comes and goes because of thought, erroneously buying into something that, you know, that we're just giving a little bit too much power to. And that's how we maintain mental health, you know. Sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that. I think that's why perhaps I'm having some trouble understanding this. Just because, let's just say, you know, someone who goes through, let's just say what's going on in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of individuals that are going to come out of it with severe PTSD symptoms.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
if they're put in that type of situation, or let's say someone who was in a prolonged situation, abusive situation, for example, they're going to come out of that with right? Or if the children are grown up in unhealthy environments, more than likely, yes, they might have a different perception, but it also has been shown that a lot of the children that grow up in those types of situations develop unhealthy attachment styles, or, you know, so that's where I think I'm just kind of stuck.
Well, you just need a deeper understanding. You can't figure this out really from your head at all, but PTSD really is also, you're right, things happen, but people relive it. It happened once, say, the incident, people relive it via thought. Every time we call up that same thought, those thoughts over and over and over and over again, we're wearing out the carpet. It's running on automatic, and we get, you know, PTSD, so to speak, over and over again, but that's still thought created. And any behavior is always thought. So this is perfect for people, for everybody. Once they begin to see how it is that they really work, it looks like PTSD is because of the event, but the event happened once, so to speak, and now it's over. But we keep it alive by remembering it, repeating it in our head over and over and over, as we all do, because it's easy to do, until we know that we're creating it, the PTSD ourselves. When we don't know that, it looks like it's coming from the event.
And I think we're also socialized to do that, because even in
Oh,
therapy,
absolutely. Yeah.
we're told, oh, let's talk
therapy
about
also.
it. Let's,
Yes.
and that's why I think this is like, it's like
Yes.
almost like backwards or upside down, or
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're like,
Yes.
oh, let's go back. Or even a lot of
Yeah.
these modalities that are out there, like EMDR and all these
Yes.
trauma therapies. I don't know what it does, if it's causing more harm than good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Talking about somebody's past, there's no mental health there. Somebody needs wisdom, insights. Absolutely. So you see a lot. That's wonderful. Good for
You say it
you.
a lot. Yeah,
Wonderful.
Sonia. And you do know that Chris and Judy Sedgman have a podcast called Psychology Has It
It has it
Backwards.
been-
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's
I-
wonderful.
It is really good.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there. And there's also, the psychiatrist, William Pettit. Have you watched any of his YouTube videos?
I think I've heard of him.
Oh, you'll
Well, you
love
Actually,
him.
I did. I
Yeah.
think Judy speaks of him, or she
Oh,
knew
yes,
him, right?
absolutely.
Yes. Okay. And I've been also
his-
listening to Michael
She works with him
Neal.
a lot.
Yep. he's good
And
too.
they both of them do a series for vets, veterans of wars, mainly Vietnam, I guess, but no, the Gulf War, yeah.
Oh,
So
with the
they do a
severe
series
PTSD.
of, they talk a lot about PTSD. It's only when a memory from the past, like Lynn was saying, is brought forward, and it takes the sting out of that. Really takes the sting out of it when people recognize that it's an old thought. In fact, Dr. Pettit tells this really a great story about somebody who was a vet, came to the US on July 4th. So he gets off the plane and they've got this July 4th celebration and it's like bombs going off. That was the whole reason for fireworks. The rocket's red glare, and he had like an anxiety attack as though he's back in the war. He sat down
Right.
and he realized, boy, that's so interesting that my thinking could bring me back to that experience. He just got really intrigued by it and it was gone. Didn't last very long. I thought that story of his in particular was very interesting. The power of thought.
Yes.
Extraordinarily powerful.
Exactly, Lori, exactly. Even triggers like that kind of triggered him, the 4th of July. Triggers are just made of thought, and triggers happen because the brain already knows what it knows, what had happened. But when we begin to see it for what it is, our spiritual mind, I call it, overrides the brain. When we really see what it is and how we're creating that over and over again. But when you don't know it, it looks like you have to do something about your triggers, about, your habits, your behaviors, about your thinking. I can't have these negative thoughts, or something's wrong with me. And it just explains, the principles just explain exactly what we're talking about, how we work. The danger is when we don't know it. I've had clients who've gone to therapy for 25 years. There's something wrong with somebody has to go to therapy for 25 years. I'm sorry, that's not normal. And they're no better. I mean, let's be honest, and then they learn the principles and they're like, where you been all my life? And yeah, it's incredible. That's all we have to do is know how we operate. There's nothing to fix. Anxiety, depression, overwhelm, fear, triggers, addiction. There's nothing to fix. It's understanding it. When we understand it, it clears the lenses of misperception. Truth, what do I want to say? The understanding brings truth, and truth clears the lenses of misperception. And habits fade, behaviors fade that are no longer serving. The need to do something about your thinking fades. You spend more time living in well-being. You spend more time living in a higher level of consciousness. Truth is powerful. Truth is wisdom. Yeah.
That's so true. Cynthia, another way to look at the fact that you're studying to be a therapist now is to look at it as a history class. You're taking a history class in psychology, basically, the history of psychology. You know who told me that is George Pransky. George, that's what he told his daughters when they were in school studying. They said, my God, this is so ancient. It doesn't make sense anymore to people who are familiar with the principles. And he
Sure.
said, just look at it as a history class.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great viewpoint?
great
A
idea.
great
That
way to
is a
see
really
it.
good way of looking at it. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I'm slowly just focusing on the coursework right now. And then, if all goes
Yeah.
well, the practicum, utilizing the
Right.
principles, because I don't want to, it's just a lot. You're kind of like unlearning with the
Yeah,
principles in a
yes,
sense, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
taking the classes in conjunction, that's just too much.
Sure.
Yeah. See, that's your wisdom that knows that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
right,
your
Lori.
wisdom
Yeah.
that knows. My brain would go
Mhm.
boing, it would go
And
full
another
tilt.
thing is I did have a practicum site lined up and I just couldn't do it because I started learning about these principles.
Oh,
And then I'm like, no, I can't. I just saw the compassion fatigue, the burnout already.
yeah.
And I didn't even start,
Wow.
and yeah, that is the wisdom.
Yeah.
How
Wow.
interesting. Really interesting. Yeah.
And really, that's what compassion fatigue is it's believing that people do not have it in them. So we have to try to work as hard as we can to get them okay.
Wow.
Oh,
That's so huge.
That's
That makes
pure
a lot of
wisdom right
sense.
there, right there. That's all compassion fatigue is.
And I think we get compassion fatigue even within ourselves sometimes
yeah, that's right.
when we entertain our thoughts and go over
You're
and
right.
over and over and mull it over. I've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
A friend of mine,
Beautiful. That's an insight.
when
Yep.
she learned this, she was always, feeling bad because she said, there's so many bad things going on in the world. And she was a peace activist and there's so much war. How can I be happy with this going on? And what somebody said to her is, until you are peaceful, how is the world going to be peaceful?
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Absolutely. Peace starts with us, one person at a time. And then the world becomes peaceful. Absolutely right. Peace in our heart, there'll be peace in the world. Absolutely. Perfectly said.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just love this work.
Amen.
I know.
Really, it's just so powerful. Peace of mind, contentment, that's mental health, if you think about it, right? Contentment, mental health. We're only in a mental health crisis because people don't understand where it comes from.
Well, and we're so focused on mental illness and,
Yes, exactly.
Yes, yes. And I got to tell you, it's
So true.
exhilarating. There is no compassion fatigue, zero, because you'll hear your clients when, okay, you can hear that they're not understanding how thought works as they're talking about their problems. But then they'll say something that's so full of wisdom.
Yes.
It's exhilarating.
Yeah.
Nobody's putting that into them. That's their
That's right.
spirit speaking. That's their
That's right.
innate health speaking. And then you point that out to them. Can you imagine what a
Yes.
difference that is when you point out a person's wisdom and
That's
they
right.
start getting the hang of it? I say getting the hang of it. They start, how would you put it, Lynn or Scarlett?
Yeah. They start to see that most people, including, that's how I was, not realizing your wisdom. It's so easy to poo-poo because it's so ordinary, and it's easy to miss. But when you see that you really have the wisdom within, that you have the answers, they're always there when your mind quiets down. That's just so comforting to know that we have that within us. And when somebody I pointed out to my clients, they're in awe. That's wisdom. I don't know. What was your experience, Scarlett?
I was just thinking about how much we try to help, and sometimes it takes us away from that wisdom. When we were teaching children about their feelings, we forgot to teach them about how those feelings were created, and therefore they get stuck in that feeling and thinking that is who they are, instead of the fact that that was how they created it with the three principles, and that maybe that thought that they used to create their sadness or their anger, maybe that thought wasn't true.
That's right.
Senia, you have three principals therapists here with you. Me, Lynn, and Scarlett. How's that, huh?
No, that's amazing.
And Karen is teaching kids in school, youngsters, about the three principles through a curriculum called My Guide Inside.
Mm.
So you got a lot of
Yeah, it's good to know. That's kind of what I was like really interested in, to know like what it was before, when you were a therapist, and now, the life before and the life after.
well, I can tell you this, that I'm very grateful I was not a therapist for very long before I found Sid, because I was an art therapist. And even as an art therapist, they were, I mean, I was hearing some really crazy stuff. Really crazy stuff. Like if a child draws a black circle in the middle of a tree, it means that they were abused. And like, I used to draw black circles in the middle of a tree. That's kind of a kid thing to do, and I was not abused. So, that was only one crazy thing I heard. So, I would not have gone into the field full force had it not been for through grace that I heard Sid. I would have gone back to being an art teacher for sure. Yeah. And diagnosing people never made sense to me. I always felt like, who am I to put a diagnosis on somebody? That never made sense. And then Sid said, in the future, there will be one diagnosis: the misuse of the ability to think.
And that's really what it is. He hit the nail on the head. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Absolutely.
But innocently, look at all, and
Right.
Dr.
Of
Pettit
course.
says this, all of the innocent psychiatrists that he went to, a number of psychiatrists,
Yes.
because of his own
Right.
depression,
Mhm.
learning to be a psychiatrist.
That's right.
And it turns out it's very common for psychiatrists to be depressed because of the very thing that Senia was just saying. For that very reason, because compassion fatigue. You want people to be healthy. Well, they are healthy. Just have to reach in to the health. That's the difference.
And
Yeah.
people are relieved. And I'm not a true therapist. I'm more of a, I say spiritual mentor. I started with coaching. But when people really see that they're not broken, like when you tell people that, you have this innate health, you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed or repaired, they're like blown away. Like, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? And because most people, like I say, lots of people that I've seen have gone through traditional therapy, and they're told, they're broken, they have to be repaired, they have to heal from this and that, their inner child, which is a joke because that doesn't exist. That's just a thought. And that keeps people stuck even more. And when they really begin to see that they have this innate health within them, it changes everything. It changes everything for these people.
People have been told that they'll be in therapy for the rest of their life.
Right.
Exactly.
Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
They have, yes. And it does kind of keep you stuck, especially with the prognosis, because then you just keep like reinforce. It's like a lifetime thing, it's a label.
Exactly.
And I know, and the more you work on yourself, the more you try to change, it just kind of, it's almost like when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you've heard that. And then it's like, it just unfolds into more things and more things. It's kind of how it is with therapy, in a sense. I mean, do people really get anywhere? It's like they might notice some subtle shifts, but not that much. It's sad in a way.
I know. I agree. Yeah.
I love what Lynn says. She says, we're in the business of transformation.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
that's great.
Yeah.
People transform from the inside out.
Yes.
You know, their
yes.
true nature comes forward.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And that's the difference, Lori. Transformation, you're right, transforming from within.
Mhm.
You don't get that with therapy. That's why people keep going and going. There's no rise in the level of consciousness. There's no understanding about your past. You're not able to see anything differently. Maybe some people do. I don't, want to say that in general, but there's a big, big difference. When you transform, you're transforming your form. And that's the ultimate level of change. If giving people information or advice or to be a sounding board for someone, that's short-term feeling good for a few minutes, but that doesn't teach anybody how they work. When they feel depressed, they're still going to go look outside anywhere other than thought. So they're still going to be on the same train that they've always been riding. Yeah.
Were you going to say something, Karen, earlier? I thought, no. Yeah. So we've got 20
I've
more
been sitting
minutes.
too much today. I needed to move around. That's why I shut my.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. It's all good.
I'll read something from, actually, this is from Lori's book, one of Lori's many books, The Secret of Love. And it's from Sid. And I was looking at this earlier before we came on. As our thinking changes, which it changes on its own, right? Our behaviors follow, all quite naturally. The deeper we understand the effect the three principles have on our lives, the more positive our behaviors tend to be. The reason our behaviors become more positive is because when we're in a better state of mind, we see life from a different vantage point. Oh, I just love that, in a better state of mind. And our state of mind changes moment to moment. There's so much misinformation out in the world about master your mindset, master yourself. That's made up. That's 100% impossible. So I just love, we see a different reality, so we respond differently. We don't have to work at changing. We will automatically react differently when we see life differently. That is how true and lasting change occurs. It is a shift in a level of consciousness as we wake up to the fact that our thinking creates our experience. The quality of our life improves. When we're in a better state of mind, everything we think, do, and say comes from a deeper feeling of love. Wow. How true that is. Yeah.
Great quote. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I always say, going from the escalator, if you're stepping on an escalator or even an elevator, right? So say an escalator, you just step on and you can't see much, right? Then you go up, more and more and more, your view becomes more expansive. So now you see things you didn't see before, right? Just like levels of consciousness.
And it's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something in one of Sid's in the Enlightened Gardener books about how three different people look differently at a rose bush? Or was I reading
Yes.
that somewhere else?
Yeah.
Because that's the one that kind of sticks in my mind. I was trying to explain something to somebody one day about this principle to my supervisors. That's what it was. I was like, how they, that's one I could come up with. It's like we're all looking at it differently.
Yes. Yes, Karen, you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, filtered through our own thinking. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sid talks about a chair in Separate Realities, that somebody could look at two people looking at the same chair. One says, oh, it has a really nice design. I like the design of that chair. And somebody else looks at it and says, oh, I don't like the design of that chair at all. Hopefully those
Yeah.
two people are not married, right? But a lot of times they are. And, you know, that's when you find another chair, a different chair that you can both live with. So funny. There was another quote in The Enlightened Gardener Revisited that I love. I was going to bring it to mystery school tomorrow. I don't know if you can make that, Karen. I'll give you a heads up on it. So it goes like this. What I am and it relates to what we've been talking about. What I am calling psychological viruses would be such things as greed, hate, jealousy, desire, and envy, just to name a few. Such viral thoughts create negative feelings and lead to insurmountable problems for those who are infected. And then he says, they're asking Sid, the psychologists are asking Sid, why do you feel there's a difference between personal truth and what you're calling spiritual truth? Because, Eric, spiritual truth is impersonal and is not of this world. Such truth lies beyond time, space, and matter and is unchangeable. Then, smiling broadly, he said, on the other hand, our personal truth can change from moment to moment, is subject to what I would call psychological viruses.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he goes on to explain what what he calls psychological viruses. When you are suffering from such a virus, you are not sick per se. I would rather say you are temporarily and innocently not thinking straight.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's happened to me many times.
Yeah, right. Not thinking straight, right?
Oh, yeah.
The trick is knowing when we're not
Yes.
thinking straight. That's
Yes.
that's the trick.
For sure.
And it could be
Everybody
tricky
falls
sometimes.
falls in that trap. Everybody.
Yes.
That's being human.
Blurred lines, sometimes blurred lines. You're not sure. Yeah.
It totally helps relationships.
Right.
My goodness, it's huge.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll just read this last few sentences here. The secret vaccine for such psychological viruses lies in your thoughts and your feelings. Feelings such as love, caring, sharing, or being pleased by the good fortune enjoyed by yourself or others are just a few of the remedies that can lift your spirit and clear away the unwanted viruses of negative feelings.
Yeah,
Isn't that cool?
it is.
How
Very
simple.
Wow.
It's
Very, very
unbelievably simple. But the brain tries to complicate things.
Complicated. Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
sometimes the brain even does it like unconsciously, like you were mentioning these like triggers before. Sometimes it's like we're not even aware something happens on the outside and it's like this like knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
But it's all about like awareness, right? Like more you're aware. I feel like this is also kind of like the three principles is like being in the zone. Like every once in a while, I'm in there. I'm like on top of
Yeah.
everything. I'm like, everything's just running smoothly and I feel like one with the universe, and I have all this creativity. Is it this like
Yes.
channel? And I'm like, wow, look at all this creativity that's flowing through me. I feel like that's what the three principles are about. When all that BS is out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's your natural default. Creativity. You're in the present moment. You're not worried about yourself. You're not worried about changing your thinking. None of that exists there. We're really not a self there. I always say we're a soul there. And you're right. We're so creative, we're productive, life feels easier, we're happy, even though we can't stay there every minute. But that's where we default to when we let our thinking go. When we wake up to see, yes. Imagine mental health. There's your mental health. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I love living there.
Can I ask you a question? When you're stuck in the hamster wheel, okay, which sometimes I get into over and over again, dissecting something, what do you tell yourself then? You know?
I'm stuck in the hamster wheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
And that right there is
recognizing it's
wisdom
huge,
speaking.
It's
right?
true. Right?
Like just that's all you need. And
Yeah,
you
just
can't
voice,
make that
yeah.
happen. There's no button to push, you know.
Yeah.
I'm on an insight. Ah.
Wouldn't it be nice
You're
if
on
there
the
was a
hamster
button to
wheel
push?
until
Right.
it occurs to you like, oh, what am I doing on this hamster wheel?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you don't have to
yeah.
judge yourself for it. It's just a natural thing to happen.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Or I just tell myself, oh, I'm not going there. Once I wake up to it, I kind of chuckle
Yeah,
sometimes.
right.
I'll say, Lynn, I'm not going down that path today. No.
You sort of laugh at the hamster.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. We don't have to remember anything or tell ourselves anything or repeat
No. Right.
anything, you know, or tape sticky notes
Right.
on our
How
mirror to
wise.
remind us.
How wise to know that you're on the hamster wheel. I mean, that's really
That's
our
right.
consciousness going up, right?
Yes, bingo. Absolutely. Yes, it is. Noticing our consciousness is noticing it. And once we notice it and leave it alone, it does the heavy lifting. I always say there's nothing we need to do. And we'll land in that default. Yeah.
So any last comments, questions, answers? Any insights that you might have
I don't
had
know.
even while we've been sharing
Patty.
this hour and a half?
It's funny. It's like we were just talking about the hamster wheel, but in therapy, they would say, okay, let's talk about the hamster wheel. What part, you know what I mean? We dive
Yes, there
in,
you
we
go.
say, you know, even with a lot of the models like IFS, we're like, okay,
Yeah.
which part is this? And then sometimes I wonder if that like does keep it alive because we're taught to
Yes,
think
it does.
it's an unmet need. Okay, what are you needing right now by experiencing this? And it's just, you know, I don't know if it
That's so
brings relief
complicated.
or not, but yeah. So I guess that's what it is. It's unlearning that.
Yes. Yeah. The hamster wheel is just thought, a made up thought story that when you see it, you know, it's just getting lost in thought. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
You know, when you don't even have to unlearn it because you already saw through it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You just shared how it looks so ridiculous to you.
Yeah. You've seen a lot. You give yourself credit.
Oh,
You've seen a
yeah.
lot.
I mean, isn't it like you get a scab, which is natural, God-given scab that is healing your wound, and then you pick at it, hoping to get to the bottom of it, hoping to heal it by picking at it, right? And that's what
Yeah.
that metaphor just
You're
came
right.
to my mind, right?
You're right.
What is your take on like like the insecure attachment styles? You think that's also just a thought?
I don't know about those.
Yeah, you know, it's what people make up about it. I mean, you know, I'm sure you could find for every person that has a diagnosis of, you know, attachment disorder, there's somebody else, you know, like I know I've met people who were raised by a grandparent or, you know, basically raised themselves even. And they're healthier than a lot of people who had an intact family. It's how we think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we can't be raised by wolves. We need at least one adult. But who the adult is, doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter. I don't know if that really answered what your question is, though.
Yeah. It's just, what you're taught in school and what you're taught out there and, and in the therapy rooms and doing your own. I mean, I was in the therapy rooms for a while too, you want to do your,
Me too.
right? They say
Me
do
too,
your
for
own
4
work.
years.
Oh,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
went
like,
in
where have I
depressed,
gone?
and 4
Have
years
I
later, I
really?
came out more depressed.
Yes.
Because I could tell you, you know, kind of wrote, well, of course I'm depressed because my mother said this, my brother said that, you know, my brother, this or that or the other thing, who knows what. But it was like validating all of my thinking that
Mhm.
led to my depression.
Yeah.
It's just validating
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And that's
what
what
I already
therapists do.
thought,
They
right?
validate.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
therapists do. They think they have to validate. Yes, you're right in thinking this, which keeps it alive.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
bingo, bingo, bingo,
Exactly.
bingo.
Yes.
Mhm. Beautiful.
And makes people think that there's something wrong with them
Yeah. Exactly.
and they need a drug.
Yeah.
When someone
Has
mentioned
anybody
schools
seen,
too,
I
and it's
wonder
like you
if,
talk about, go ahead.
Go ahead, Karen.
I
There's
just wonder if
something-
anybody has seen this commercial on TV. They are now mail ordering antidepressants and anti-anxieties medication, mail ordering. And they charge like $30, something like that, for an online therapist who will prescribe for you.
Oh, crazy.
Well, they're putting them
Yes.
now on CVS too, and I'm like, what?
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, there was something on the news about adding a mental health person in the CVS, and people can go and see them like they do minute clinics. But someone mentioned something about schools,
Sad.
and it's like, they have all these labeling as far as these different emotions, as far as how you're feeling, and you're in the red zone. I'm starting to see the connection there, because those kids that have those, they're always bursting out and they're always landing in the red zone. A kid's gonna think he's got something wrong, that he's never
Exactly.
in the good zone. And so I'm seeing that connection there, and I see why just the words that we use with the kids and how important it is, because they hold on to them,
Yeah.
because they're looking to the adults in the room, because
That's
they know
right.
more. So whatever they're saying has got to be right. So
Wow.
Great observation, Karen. Yeah, that's right. And well-meaning adults,
yeah,
well-meaning
Of
therapists.
course.
well
Right.
intended.
That's
Yeah.
what they learn. They
Yes.
spend a lot of money to
Right.
go to graduate school and to their trainings.
Yeah. That's
They
right.
want to help. They have good intentions. They want to help people.
But those
Absolutely.
labels
Oh.
on a kid, it's like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're lucky. We're really, really lucky that
Yes.
there's
Yes.
things are, the tide is turning slowly but
That's right.
surely.
Mhm.
How did you find
Absolutely.
Christine Heath? How did that happen?
So I was actually looking for practicum sites. So I hit the zip code in Hawaii, and she came up, and it's funny, I didn't even really look over what type of modality she uses. I just called, I spoke with the secretary, and then we met, and she's like, 3 principles. I'm like, what is that? And at first I'm like, okay, what's going on here? But yeah, it's just so funny how that happened, because my thing is, I felt very resistant lately, and I could have started already, but I felt so resistant because I was always thinking, is this all there is?
Wow.
There's got to
Wow.
be something out there. Is there, And then I just, yeah, so it
Wow.
was just
Oh
an
my God.
accident. Yeah.
A good one.
actually
Oh my
gonna-
gosh. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm actually going to call her maybe this week or next week, and we're going to talk about it, like the start date and all of that. But yeah, like I just right away, I was like, this is really fascinating. At first I was like, okay, wait, this is weird at first, because it is, it's different. It's different, right?
Yes,
Different
yes,
thinking goes
yes,
against some of
absolutely.
the stuff that you're
Yes,
taught.
yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's inside out. First is
It
outside
is.
in.
Outside in. Yeah. Wow. You've seen a lot. That's incredible that your wisdom was nudging you and you
Isn't that
ran across
funny?
these
Yeah.
principles. Really, it is no accident. It was
It
meant
isn't,
for you
no.
not to go down this path. Yeah. Wow.
So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun to
Wow.
work with her and utilize this. Because then, yeah, because that's another thing. I went to a training for a trauma focused form of therapy. And I'm thinking, after like even just dipping my toe in this, I don't even think I want to go back for the second level. I'm like, why am I going to go back? It's like I'm going backwards, back in time. No, I'm propelling forward,
Wow.
because there's so many modalities out there now, and some of them even
Right.
contradict one another. And I think that causes a lot of confusion too.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. Because they're made up.
They're made. I was
Because
gonna
they're
say
made
that
up
they're
with
made
separate
up.
realities.
Yes. Yes.
Right. I know, what is the truth? There
That's
is
right.
no truth, because there's unlimited versions. You can think of
Yes.
so many different explanations.
Right. Right.
Unlimited.
Right.
Wow. That's
With the
interesting.
mind, exactly. Unlimited possibility of interpretations. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Even
Wow,
the
this
tests that they use in businesses, that test for introversion, extroversion. If
Yes.
people take that test at different points,
That's
at
right.
different
That's
times in
right.
their life, they
Oh,
come out different.
the Myers-Briggs
Yes,
or whatever.
yes, yes,
Myers-Briggs,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
exactly.
one of
Yes,
them.
yes.
Yeah.
And some of them
You're
put them
right.
on these like sites, and they want to, or even before you start work, they want to know what kind of
Yes.
personality. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. Wow, the world of misunderstanding, that's for sure, right?
But
Mm,
when people in business understand these principles, they work together
yes,
like a
exactly.
team because they respect each other.
Of
They
course,
understand
right.
separate realities. They
Right.
understand moods. They give each
Right.
other, when they
Yes.
have that kind of understanding, you don't take things personally.
Exactly.
You realize, oh, she must be in a grouchy mood, or
Yeah, that's right.
who knows
That's
what
right.
happened. Something happened on her way into work, or, she's insecure. She's like that all the time, but she's insecure. That's why she's
Yeah,
like that
that's
all
right.
the time. I'm thinking of somebody you deal with, Karen, right? You recognize that description, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great.
Bring more patience and grace for there. That's okay. We'll
There
get
you
there.
go, Karen.
My life's much happier.
Right.
There you go.
More patience and grace. That's beautiful. And that makes your life much happier.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Karen was dealing with a difficult supervisor or director, whatever she's called. Yeah. What a difference. You can be
Yeah.
happier regardless of.
That's
Whatever.
right.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Whatever. Right. People are always, I love this. People are always doing the best they can, given
Yes,
how
yes.
things look to them.
That's right. That's right.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yep.
To see it that way. Hard to take offense then.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
From Scarlett.
Okay. Scott.
Yeah,
Okay.
Scarlett,
Oh,
great-
we're wrapping
great
up now.
seeing
Thank you,
you.
Scarlett.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
hope to
been
see you next
wonderful.
Thank you,
week.
Scarlett. We'll see you next week.
Mwah.
Yeah.
Take care,
Thanks,
Ma.
everybody.
It's
Bye-bye.
cute. Take care.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take
Okay.
care.
Well, we'll wrap it up here anyway. It's time to go, but, oh,